Hello, my beautiful pork chops. It is Steak Uchiha here with another news. What's up, Steak viewers? This is your boy Six, aka Steak's boss, over on my channel. Go check me out. And today, me and Steak are doing a collab. This is part 1 of What If Goku Learned Fusion Early. If you want any more information, just look in the description. And yeah, so if you want to see part 2, go over to my channel. My link will be in Steak's description. And if you're wondering why this is how it is, because this is how me and Steak decided to do the collab. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into this. We are going to be starting off this video, obviously, with a little explanation. So basically, Goku is going to be learning fusion early within the time he was dead for the 1-year time skip between the Saiyan saga. So after Goku and Piccolo had fought against Raditz and Goku had perished, he would run Snake Way without falling off this time within the 6-month time skip, or within 6 months, and get to King Kai's planet, where he will then start his training. Obviously, we don't want Goku to be too overpowered, so we're going to lessen the progress of his training on King Kai's planet, and we're going to have to change it up a little bit. So Goku at this time would have a power level of around 700 to 1000 if Zenkais do occur in the overworld. In the other world, we don't really know, but he'd arrive at King Kai and start his training. It would be about 2 months in, and he would have finally achieved a power level of around 2000. So it wasn't going too good. But King Kai did have one trick up his sleeve: the Kaioken. Goku was struggling to get it down, but would it eventually, after about another month or so, get down the Kaioken times 2. And this would mean that he is slightly stronger, but still with the Kaioken times 2, he would be around mostly 6,000 to 7,000 in power level, which wasn't quite enough. This is obviously because of the slowed progress, so that he doesn't get too strong within the series. At this point, King Kai would literally rely on his last hope, the Spirit Bomb. He tried teaching Goku, and Goku wouldn't actually test it, unlike how he did in canon. And at one point, because of the overwhelming amount of infinite ki within the afterworld, basically what would happen is Goku would generate a Spirit Bomb that was a little too big, and instead of throwing it, he just let it go. So it slowly went down to King Kai's planet, while King Kai's like, "Goku, what did you do? My planet!" As Goku would grab him and Bubbles and then jump off along with Jeffrey. And what would end up happening is King Kai's planet would be destroyed. There's still about 4 months until, he needs to get back, and he needs to get way stronger. King Kai would rub his face and say, "Oh well, guess we need to go to the main part of the other world where the fighters live. Maybe we could get a lot stronger there." Goku would ask him what does he mean, and he'd explain that for fighters, there is a place, if you were a righteous fighter, to go where you could basically train and fight for all of eternity, which is some form of Valhalla if you think about it. But King Kai would take Goku by the hand and then just teleport him there using the instant transmission technique, which he does know, or it could even possibly be the Kai Kai, who knows. And when he gets there, all the other fighters would obviously be curious because he was just brought here by a Kai. So for Kai's at least, what's going to be, or what happened at this point, King Kai would explain to them that there's a threat in the main world Goku needs to take care of, and he needs to grow about 10 times stronger. They'd start teaching him, and they don't really know how strong Vegeta is exactly. So I'd say he'd get up to his point of about 12,000, with the Kaioken being able to push up to times 5. So this is more or less going to be how we can stabilize Goku. He's going to even be able to push it up to the times 10 if really limited, but he's not going to be pushed to that. So basically, it's going to be his last day, and he'd say that he needs to get back to the real world when they stop him. They say that there's one more technique that he needs to learn before he goes. He'd tell King Kai to tell Bulma not to wish him back just yet, and so it would conduct. Naruto, or Goku, sorry, not Naruto, Goku, would show up a little late. And this is because of the technique he stayed back to learn. This is the fusion technique, something he has to know just in case he's not strong enough to take on Vegeta. It took him a few hours, but he finally got the dance down and knows how to explain it perfectly. They explained to him that two individuals will become one, breaking through their limits, becoming hundreds of folds stronger. Goku would nod and make his way back to King Yama's office, which wasn't really that far, it was just a little bits away. And when he gets there, King Yama would nod as he's brought back, and he's on his way to the fight. At this point, he'd arrive as Piccolo just died for Gohan, and he'd have a excruciating look on his face. At this point, Yamcha, Tien, Chaozu, and Piccolo are all dead. He'd look at Vegeta and say, "You." And then Nappa would say, "Don't you say that to Prince Vegeta," as he attacked him from the side. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the fight extremely detailed because Steak don't really like to do that, so yeah. Per se, Goku would at this point just look at Nappa and put up a hand out of fury as he bursts into a red aura and lets off a giant ki blast, basically vaporizing Nappa. He'd look at Vegeta, whose scouter just went up to 9,000 and exploded, getting the great scene we usually get. "It's over 9,000!" Vegeta would scream as he backs up. Goku would power up to Kaioken times 2 once more and lunge at Vegeta, who was struggling to keep up. He'd say that, "Okay, this is my last chance." He'd kick Goku away, and Goku would say that, "Have you given up yet, Vegeta?" As Vegeta would say, "I have one last thing I can do." He puts up his hand into the sky, launches off a powerball, and says, "Now!" He looks up and transforms into a gray ape. The interaction he and Goku has is similar, with Goku pushing up to times 5, but not quite being able to keep up with Vegeta. He would be able to push it up to times 10, but he wouldn't keep it long enough for the fight to be that great. So he'd see Yajirobe. He'd tell Yajirobe, "Yajirobe, sword!" Yajirobe would struggle to get his sword off, but throw it at Goku, who barely is able to dodge a strike from Vegeta, and he'd just burst into Kaioken times 10, moving faster than a Vegeta can in his ape form, gets behind him and slashes off his tail. This is when the beating would ensue. Goku would beat the shit out of Vegeta, and when Krillin would eventually want to kill him, Goku would say, "Give him another chance. Leave him." He puts him in the pod and sends him off. Now, Goku wasn't injured, so this would create another thing that would happen on Namek, since he didn't really take that much damage because he kept dodging. He would initially go with Bulma and Krillin, and would train with Krillin and Gohan within the space pod. And this time, we're not going to have the gravity chamber quite yet, so things are going to change a little. They would have eventually arrive at Namek with Goku, Krillin, and Gohan extremely stronger, like a lot stronger than they were because of just Gohan and Krillin training. I'd say with them being about double their strength at around 10 to 20,000 each, and Goku reaching up all the way to 40,000. Sure, it's not the 200,000 we had in canon, but don't worry, we're gonna get there. When they do initially get to Namek, it's mostly goes canon because Goku and Krillin are basically the same. They're both gigantic idiots, with Bulma being Bulma and all over the place. So they'd end up just say they're gonna go scouting, and Bulma gives him the Dragon Ball radar as they fly away. They eventually sense a high power level as they see Dodoria and Frieza torturing some children. At this point, Goku would say, "Okay, that guy over there is about as strong as me. That guy down there, I don't think I'd even be able to beat him with Kaioken times 10. Krillin would start to sweat and say, "Gosh darn, Goku, are you sure about that?" As they would jump down and save a young Dende, as his brother Cargo was just killed. They jump away and take Dende to basically where Dende asked, which is Guru's place, with Dodoria chasing after them. Dodoria would soon catch up with Goku turning around and starting a fight. He didn't want to use Kaioken because he didn't want anyone's scouters to pick him up, and would eventually just overpower Dodoria and kill him. So we're not going to have the interaction between Dodoria and Vegeta. On the other hand, while Goku, Krillin, and Gohan are taking Dende back to Guru's place, somewhere else Vegeta is encountering another blue-headed bastard, and would win pretty easily from having the same Zenkai, and would later on be approached by Zarbon, who was sent instead of Dodoria. Vegeta would use his skills of lowering his power level to make him seem like a smaller target, and things like using Ki Blast that focus more energy to create more damage, and also things like Sentry to be able to beat Zarbon. So that intercation is going to go more or less the same. From now on, Vegeta's will stick more or less to canon. With Goku, Krillin, and Gohan finally getting to Guru's place, they'd have similar interaction with Goku saying that he promises to save Namek, and Guru being happy. He would not only give him his Dragon Ball, send Nail with them, and unlocks all of their potential. I'd say Nail is at a stable 120,000 in power level, while Goku would be in a stable 200,000 in power level. So the same he would be when he arrived in canon. So the fight with the Ginyu Force would probably stay the same. So Gohan would be around 80,000 and Krillin would get a gigantic boost to about 40,000. This is obviously their potentials being unlocked and them just skyrocketing. This would also alert Frieza. Frieza would start heading because he has one more scout, or his scouters are yet to explode. But after this intercation where everyone got a power up, all the scouters would shatter. So it wouldn't be Vegeta that causes the scouters to shatter, or Krillin and Gohan destroying all of them. So Goku and the rest of the crew would go, but Frieza, even though he had about a medium scouter instead of the low quality or the high quality, it would be around medium. It would still explode, but the last counting he got was around 100,000. So he decides to call in the Ginyu Force. As Goku will continue assembling Dragon Balls, they'd realize that there are not only Frieza's Dragon Balls that are together, which are 3 Dragon Balls, but Vegeta's, which is also 3, with their mere 1. In the time it takes them to fly back, Nail would notice something in the water. He'd see 2 Dragon Balls, as Goku also picks them up on his scouter. These are 2 of the Dragon Balls that Vegeta had. For some reason, he took one with him. So this is where he'd try and go steal Frieza Dragon Balls. I'd say we skip to when the Ginyu Force arrives and Goku and Ginyu having their interaction being almost exactly like canon. Vegeta would not have encountered them at this point, but he would have felt Kakarot's power from miles away. So he knows that Kakarot can push up to 1,000,000. He could feel being twice as strong as Frieza. Or at least what he knows of Frieza. This is obviously first form Frieza. And he'd think that Kakarot might be their only hope of killing Frieza. He knows this power. This is Kakarot. He'd fly to where he sensed Ginyu and Kakarot's final altercation, with Frieza obviously being off to Guru. As Frieza started moving in a certain direction, Nail would agree to go that same direction to make sure that Guru is okay. So Nail and Frieza are more or less going to have their same altercation, and Vegeta would put Goku in the ship to heal, while they make their wishes like normal while Vegeta is away. But Vegeta would have also gotten a Zenkai from... the fight's going to go exactly as canon without Goku turning Super Saiyan. But what would happen is, initially, when Vegeta is hit by Krillin and then healed by Dende to get a Zenkai, he'd basically hop in to help Goku once more. Frieza would be tired of this and burst into his full power form, saying that now they won't be able to handle him even in the least. Goku, who at this point can maybe push 25 million, would know that this won't work, even with Kaioken times 10. He'd walk up to Vegeta and show Frieza just wait. And for some reason the tyrant is confident enough to wait, as Goku whispers something in Vegeta's ear and then puts his hand on Vegeta's forehead to transfer the memory of the dance. So at this point, Vegeta would be a little embarrassed, but he knows he has to do it if he plans on killing Frieza. Frieza would shoot a death beam in between them and ask, "What are you monkeys doing?" As Vegeta says, "Just wait, you cum stain of a lizard. We will defeat you in a second." As Frieza starts laughing as they start their dance. "Ooh, monkeys dancing for amusement now? Haha." As they would fuse into Gogeta. Gogeta is much stronger than Frieza and would easily beat on him. As Frieza tries to find a distraction, he'd grab Krillin from the sidelines and would bring him towards himself. And as this happens, Gogeta, at the time, would have thrown a ki blast and accidentally killed Krillin himself instead of it being Frieza. He'd look at what he's done, looking to his hands. Vegeta seeing, or the side of Vegeta knowing that something else happened because of Frieza because he wasn't strong enough. And the side of Goku losing a friend. He'd scream out, and as he does, burst into a golden aura, breaking through the limits of both Goku and Vegeta to turn them into the legendary Super Saiyan. Frieza would be fearful, as Gogeta in a golden aura would step out, forward, and then say, "This is your last day, Frieza." He'd look back and say, "Get everyone off the planet." As Frieza took this chance, he'd throw his death ball he had been generating at the ground, basically erupting the planet, with Gogeta able to somewhat predict he was going to do this. This would come into clutch a little later when they need to learn Ultra Instinct. But yeah, so the wish was made to take everyone back to Earth after the wish on the Earth's Dragon Balls was made to bring everyone back, obviously including Krillin. And Piccolo, who was there just like Canon and combined with Nail, would still have the same power he did, and everyone would officially be back to Earth, while Gogeta would be there fighting Frieza. The altercation would go similar, but also different. The beating on Frieza would be a lot more severe, doing a lot more damage to not only Frieza, but not taking as much damage himself. They'd cut Frieza in half, as they say that, "You're done." And as they turn around, they split back. They've exhausted too much power. Frieza thinks this as an opportunity. He'd shoot an energy ball at them. But they'd both scream out as he betrayed their trust. They were gonna let him live. But no. Bursting out into a golden aura one last time, each of them sends a giant ki blast at Frieza, killing him instantly. Or so they think. Now they're basically trying to find somewhere to go. They find a Frieza ship, but it ends up not working until they see a pod falling. They grab the pod and float it up to the surface, where Vegeta would get in and say, "Kakarot, find your own pod." Goku forcing his way in and say, "Nope, I'm coming with you." Vegeta would obviously be pissed because this is a one-man pod. It's really not going to fit two people and they're really squished up, but whatever. Barely being able to see where he sets the coordinates, he hits the go button. And as he hits this button, they take off. On Earth, we see the Namekians thank the Earthlings, and after 100 days of their Dragon Balls resetting, wishing the rest of their friends back, and also wishing for a new home. That's how New Namek was discovered. Some more time goes by as Gohan remembers the golden aura his father burst into, and knowing that he wants to train to become that strong. He'd push Piccolo, who is now back, to train him again, and Piccolo would accept, even though he is around a 500,000 and Gohan's only an 80,000. He knows Gohan is at least 20 times stronger than him before he died. So he knows he needs to train this potential to do good. This is when Piccolo would finally decide to be a good guy. Chi-Chi would scream out no as Gohan and Piccolo finally fly away, and we skip a little more time. It is 263 days later when basically they sense a power level approaching Earth. This is Frieza and Cold. They are back. And Gohan, Piccolo, and Krillin know this energy all too well. As they arrived there was someone else standing there, a boy with purple hair. They'd be curious who it was, but wouldn't question it. They drink drinks with him and wait until Frieza's ship finally lands, and this boy bursts out into a golden aura, stunning everyone, because this is something that Gogeta did back there. They didn't really know the name, but the fusion between Goku and Vegeta. Could he be a Saiyan? Out back on another planet, two people with golden auras would realize this. Hair blazing in gold with blue eyes. They'd look in the direction of Earth, put their fingers to their head, and disappear. They reappear as Trunks basically not only cut Frieza into little parts, but killed King Cold. They'd immediately see this boy with a golden aura, and they'd both be pretty shocked. So Trunks, not saying much, is confused why both Vegeta and Goku are wearing the Yardratian clothes, and why Vegeta already has Super Saiyan. But they can't let this bother them. So, to explain what just happened, Goku and Vegeta, not being able to see where they were going, ended up on Yardrat, where they not only learned to go into the form, but even unlocked one higher tier. Super Saiyan Stage 2. It's buffer and it lowers your speed, but your strength is immensely greater, even your ki. It gets a lot stronger. But they knew this wasn't worth it. While on Yardrat, they learned a technique Goku saw King Kai use when he met Vegeta. The instant transmission. That's how they were able to move from Yardrat to Earth so quickly. When they arrived there, Trunks asked Goku to come with them, and he does. Goku looks at Vegeta and nods, and as he walks away, we find out that Goku and Vegeta had gained an abnormal respect for each other, becoming rivals like Piccolo and Goku once used to be. So, per se, they became a lot closer. And now, there's this random kid that attained Super Saiyan. They didn't even know there was any other Saiyans out there, because they had switched a lot of information between them two. And as far as they know, the only people still alive are them and then Vegeta's brother Tarble. Whatever. As Trunks begins to talk, Vegeta uses the instant transmission to teleport behind him. Trunks didn't really see him, and the rest didn't really say anything, because you don't really make move when you move between two spaces instantaneously. He listened as basically Trunks explained that he is Vegeta and Bulma's kid, and this is when Vegeta bursts out. He's like, "What?" Trunks jumping back like, "Oh, you heard that? I was joking." Vegeta would blast forward, pushing Trunks against the wall. "I heard you perfectly, child. Now explain." He'd explain that he came from a future, and he didn't want Vegeta to hear this because this might have caused them some turmoil. Vegeta would say that he'd never end up with an Earthling, but Trunks would beg to differ. He'd end up telling them that they need to master Super Saiyan, and they'd explain that there is forms above it. They can feel it as they both buff up. Piccolo, who was listening, would look shocked, and Gohan would ask what, and Piccolo would say, "Guess that form of yours we unlocked wasn't the final stage. There's much more to mastering it than it might seem." As Gohan looked at his hands. In this time that Goku has been gone, Piccolo has pushed Gohan with fear, anguish, and guilt to have him unlock Super Saiyan. It's really hard for him to enter the state, but he at least can. Goku and Vegeta, on the other hand, they're just something else. Trunks would gulp and say that you might actually be able. The Goku and Vegeta in my timeline weren't as strong. They barely scratched the surface of Super Saiyan. This would be the end of their altercation, and the 3 years time skip would start till the androids arrived. Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Piccolo would all train together. mainly living out of Capsule Corp, as Chi-Chi was told by Bulma to come there while the training's going on, because they need to save the world. Piccolo kind of splurred everything out while they were talking, and even though he didn't mention the part about that kid being Trunks, he just said he's someone from the future. They'd believe it, and actually everyone would get stronger so that the world doesn't end, that everyone doesn't die. And the only reason Chi-Chi agreed to this is so that she can make sure that Gohan is actually studying, because she knows she can't stop him from training. Gohan and Piccolo would be off doing something, while Goku and Vegeta are just pure blunt sparring. I'm not going to go over the exact details, but after the 3 years, they eventually got to a state where they can stay within the Super Saiyan form, and even got up to stage 4, aka mastered the Super Saiyan, for days at a time. Gohan would also get pushed to this point, and they would never have to encounter Cell, or at least not yet. So what would end up happening is Cell would still arrive like normal, while Trunks arrives, and Trunks in the meantime has been training for about 2 weeks in his time before coming back, and he actually got a lot stronger. He unlocked the second stage of Super Saiyan, but knows that this isn't where he could stop. While this was happening, Goku and Vegeta would have been fighting against Android 19 and 20, Goku suffering to the heart virus, but Vegeta ending them off, as Trunks would make sure that he took his medicine, but he'd be sick like always. Somewhere else, Gero would end up freeing the androids but being killed by them, and Trunks would tell them that those weren't the real androids. So they'd have to, interact with the androids once again. Vegeta and Goku, now that Goku is fully healed, would eventually hear on the news of an entire city of people disappearing. So they decide to go fly around. As Goku comes out of Kami House with Vegeta basically going to tell him that they need to find the androids, would fly out and see Android 17 and 18, who finally found Kami House, saying that they're there to kill Goku. With an unexpected visitor, 16. Trunks don't really know who this is, but he'll keep it in mind. Goku and Vegeta would both take one, with Goku going against 17 and Vegeta going against 18. They'd power up to their master state and fairly easy dispose of the androids, but they wouldn't kill them. Goku would try and turn them, as 16 would tell them, "Go, I'll handle this," as he pulls off his arms shooting at them, as he just starts flying away. Vegeta wants to go after them to destroy them, but Goku tells him, "Leave them. We'll fight them another day." In this time, they would have found Gero's lab and actually found out about 16, 17, 18, and even Cell, which they would destroy. On the other hand, Piccolo's been gone for a while. He had fused with Kami, becoming much stronger, and probably as strong as around the Master Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta. This is when we'd get the Cell games. The androids, being too scared to encounter Goku and Vegeta again, would be absorbed by Cell, with 16 surviving and actually going to ask for their help. 16 would once again become their ally, as Bulma would reprogram him not to want to kill Goku, but he still has the initiative to actually defeat Goku on a one-on-one fight. Cell, who had not fought them yet, would set up the Cell games like normal, and they wouldn't go into the time chamber. What would end up happening is the Cell games would be initiated like normal, with both Vegeta and Goku both having mastered Super Saiyan and being a lot stronger than they were in canon, at least on Vegeta's side. The Cell games would initiate like normal, but instead of Goku going into the ring, it would be someone else. It would be Gohan. Goku wants to see if Gohan can handle this, but he'd eventually be defeated and be put to the side. Goku would go in and fight himself, eventually almost dying, where Vegeta would kick him out of the ring and then start fighting Cell himself. Cell will create the Cell Juniors to fight against the Z Fighters, but the Z Fighters would easily take him out because of all the extra years of training. They got a lot stronger because of this. They wouldn't really be able to one-on-one take on a Cell Jr., but they were smart enough to use teamwork to destroy them. On the other hand, Goku was given a Senzu Bean, and Vegeta finally did some damage to Cell. He blasted away half of Cell's face and upper body, but he healed. Now they were confused. Cell would now attack Goku and Vegeta, grabbing them both by the faces, slamming them together. Goku, being fully healed because of the Senzu Bean, would slip one into Vegeta's hand, and he'd eat it. Cell feels his power rising and say, "Oh, so that was your plan, giving him a Senzu Bean. How naughty of you, Goku." They look at each other. This would be the last time they do this, hopefully, as they start doing a dance. Cell knows exactly what this is, trying to throw a ki blast, but is interrupted by Krillin, who once again tanks a blow for Goku. They transform into Super Saiyan Gogeta. They start fighting off against Cell, easily overpowering him, and even eventually destroying him. But he reforms again. Ugh, that was close. Gogeta would get a little angry and attack him with blunt force, kicking him in the stomach. And something happens. He starts puking something. He pukes out Android 18, who is then grabbed by Krillin, who was laying nearby, but he saw someone that was scared. He needed to save her. He grabs her and jumps out of the way as Cell reverts to his imperfect state. Gogeta would now say, "You're over with, Cell," as he destroys him. That's what he thought, at least. As Cell regenerates, something new had happened. He turns his hand as lightning surrounds him, back in his perfect state. "Oh, looks like I have access to new power. Something even beyond Super Saiyan." Goku and Vegeta, or Gogeta in this case, would know that this is the power they've been trying to get all along. And Cell is beating them with it. They don't understand. In this What If, I'm making Cell a little stronger so that we can still get Super Saiyan 2. They'd fight and fight until there's a few seconds left. Cell would once again say, "Okay, looks like I'm going to kill them first before I kill you," as he'd kick Gogeta out of the way. Gogeta would fall and split into two. Goku and Vegeta would once again be separated. Goku would have a massive gash on his stomach, maybe dying again, as Gohan screams out in anguish. Lightning starts surrounding him. He became a Super Saiyan 2. He would then attack Cell, as Cell would start actually getting hurt. Gohan has the same power he has, and as Goku and Vegeta stood up for one last time, they're able to defeat Cell. They'd all power up and shoot a giant beam towards Cell from every side and vaporize him. The tyrant is finally gone. But saying that, Goku and Vegeta, they'd both fall on the ground. No ki. And too much blood lost. Both dying. This would be an epic loss for the Z Fighters. And if you want to see this continue, make sure to check out the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Nah, I'm just kidding. If y'all want to see part 2, it's over on my channel right now. Click the link in the description or even this card on screen. Yeah, thank you, Steak, for having me on your channel, and peace to your subscribers. See ya.